Hi, this is SJ Bennett, and this is a quick demo of Keyframe Tools, which is an add-on in early development for Blender. I'm being helped along by Luciano Munoz, who works in Maya most of the time, but he works in Blender other times, and he's been helping me get better at animation while I've been learning. And as a way of thanking him and giving him something he would like, there's a plugin for Maya called Animbot by Alan Camillo, and it's got a lot of tools that Blender doesn't have, and so he asked, could you maybe try getting some of those tools into Blender for me so that I can animate more effectively. And so this is the early stages of that particular tool. You can download it off of GitHub. So you can clone the repo, you can download a zip file, install it like you would a normal Blender plugin. So let's begin. You activate it using Shift Z or Shift Z in the graph editor. Make sure you are in the graph editor. If you hit Shift Z in the 3D view, then you might get you get a much nicer picture, but that's not necessarily what you want when you're animating. So let's see what this thing can do. So there's three tools that I'm about to show you. One of them is just sort of a glorified macro, set cursor and pivot, but I'd like to show you flatten keys to start with. So from about here to here, this character, Rivet, from the CG Cookie Animation Workflow and Body Mechanics course, is pretty much just sort of at a set momentum. So there's no force keeping him, there's no force slowing him down, there's no force speeding him up. He's launched himself off that ledge. He is down to the bottom ledge. Now, at this contact point, everything changes, so the momentum slows down. But other than that, he will keep a constant speed from here to here, which means that all the keys from here to here will be a straight line. That is not the case. And it often isn't when you go from blocking to splining. And this is actually my animation here, so yay. Anyway, so we have a tool to help fix that. So we can go flatten keys, and that flattens the keys, so it straightens them from the first key in the selection to the final key in the selection. So if you weren't going to do that, you might do something like get all these keys, delete them, and then select those two keys and change them to linear, and then you get your straight line there. But as you can see, there is a few more steps with that by comparison, and just a selection and Shift Z and gesturing rightwards gets you the exact same result. Goody. Okay, so now Sir Isaac Newton is no longer turning in his grave for ignoring his laws. There we go. Now, onto the second tool, which is Flatten Exaggerate. Now, these keys here determine how low down the torso bone goes when it hits the ground. So it goes down here, there's a bit of overshoot here, and then it comes back up again. Okay, so what we can do with that is use Flatten and Exaggerate. So I'll leave the animation running so you can see the difference. So Flatten Exaggerate is modal. So you start it off, it's like scaling, and you can see in the bottom left hand corner you've got Flatten Exaggerate factor 1. So this is where we start, and this just leaves things as they are. But as we move the mouse to the right, the keys deepen, and we get slightly strange results. Here we go. Peekaboo. And this isn't necessarily what we want, so taken to extremes, this really is just a bit silly. But used more subtly, like if we sort of pull it back and pull it back some more, then we get fairly fine control over the sense of weight as Rivet hits the ground. So here we go, jumping, not really much weight there, a little bit more weight there. That's actually looking pretty good. Yeah. So the momentum is kind of being preserved there, as you would expect. So that's number 2. Now what's literally happening here is that we've got the first keyframe in the selection, the last keyframe in the selection, and what the program is doing, what the add-on is doing, is drawing a line and saying, okay, each of these keys is a certain distance from that line. And so by exaggerating, you move away from that line, and by flattening, you move towards that line. If you move all the way onto the line, you get a straight line. So yeah, this is sort of used for turning up or turning down the volume of a particular action on the F-curve. Right, moving straight along, we have the ease tool. Now the ease tool is still very much a work in progress. It is, well, you'll see. So the ease tool we would use in situations where we have a curve that we want to create. We have keyframes that kind of, draw that curve out, but as you can see here, the keyframes are a little bit wonky. So what we can do, we can just select those. We can say, right, turn these into an eased curve. Okay, so we start, again, a flat thing. For some reason, every single operator in this turns things flat. But if we move the mouse to the right, then we start to favor the first of the keyframes, and if we go to the left, we start to favor the final keyframe. So we have an ease out here and an ease in here. So with this easing curve, you probably see as I'm moving the mouse back and forward, we get a more sort of natural curve-ish, natural-ish, I guess, around here. Maybe a little floaty. Yeah, that's good. And we can move it even further to the right, and we start to get something much more stylized. The problem is that the legs, we're getting some stretch frames here, which are a little goofy. So what would be really good is if we could do eases, and for that matter, flatten, exaggerate, and if we could perform these functions on multiple channels at once. Ignore what I'm doing. Here we go. Now we've got our panel back. Excellent. Should have done this before I started recording. Never mind. It's all done now. Okay, so what we can do is select these. We can isolate these particular frames. Sorry, we can isolate the particular channels which are responsible for making the feet move up and down. Here we go. If you know how to do this quickly, please leave something in the comments, because it's real tedious. Alrighty. So we have the feet channels here. So this one is the torso, that's already been eased, and now we can work on the feet as well. So these are the feet here, these curves which are like this, and then we have the torso. So the feet are already touching the ground here, so we'll consider that to be the end of the easing curve, and the torso is about at the end here. There's a little bit of overshoot, but we don't want to ease into that. This is sort of, the end of the line. So from here we can ease the keys. Oh, let's just leave it going. This glitches if you cancel it, so you just have to undo to unglitch it. It's a work in progress development, so there'll be little things like that, but what you can see here is that we're getting a nice, fairly natural drop here, and that's quite regular. Something a little strange going on with one of those feet, but not sure what that is. We can move that to the right, and we can exaggerate that curve so he stays in the air for longer, hits the ground a bit harder. If we exaggerate it too far, it looks like he levitates and then hits the ground with a heck of a lot of force. We can take it the other way just for comic effect. So now it looks like he's going down an invisible slide, and now it looks like he's slipping over and almost losing his balance. Whoa. So I think we'll just leave it around there. That looks okay. So all of these three things are tools which are relevant to doing the splining and polish stage of animation. So after you've done your blocking, you convert everything to spline, and then you can tidy up your curves and make them all nice. And you can do that very, very quickly using these particular operations. So again, this is a work in progress. It's very early release. You can go to GitHub, you can download it and install it into Blender 2.79. It doesn't work in 2.8 yet because the developers have said they don't want people working in 2.8 for add-ons just yet. Wait till the API is stable. And the other big limitation is it only works on bone keyframes at the moment. It doesn't work on shape keys, so object properties, and it doesn't work on full object keyframes either. So as long as you're working with armature animation, then you're all set. For anything else, just sit tight and I will try and get that working in the near future. So thanks very much for your attention, and I hope you are having a good day wherever you are, or a good evening. And I think that's enough out of me. So thank you very much for your attention, and I will catch you later. Whee!